to Randall a little bit, and there you go.
Cool.
All right.
Oh, there I am.
Yeah, there you am. And you want to present here?
Yeah.
There you go.
Where's the microphone?
There's the microphone.
Yeah. I don't know if I need it. Probably don't need it. Cool. Hey, startup bots. Oh, whoa, there we go. Now that folks out there in the land can hear me, great. Hey, everybody, I'm Dr. Randy Heyer. I have two hats here in Bloomberg, actually several hats, but one of them is I'm the president of the Bloomberg Research Institute, which of course is dedicated to curing hepatitis B and some other diseases, liver cancer and spin-outs companies. We also support the PABC, the Biotech Center.
Speak up a little bit.
Supported PABC, the Biotech Center. Thank you. In addition, I'm the CEO of Merlin Biotech, which is one of those spin-outs. It's Bloomberg and has really interesting mRNA-based cancer technology. So who here has heard of mRNA? Exactly. Yeah. Who here got the COVID-19 mRNA shot? Yes, exactly. Okay. So prior to here, I was the senior vice president at Moderna, a poorly known small little biotech in the corner of the universe that made something called the mRNA COVID-19 vaccine. So I can talk a lot about that development program, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. Because in my opinion, the beauty of COVID, if there is a beauty in COVID, not to mention that we had this amazing response from the biotech industry, was that the technology underlying has now been de-risked. We just did the largest post-marketing safety study in the world, consisting of about 1.5 billion people, right? So if there's a smoking gun, a problem, something wrong with that mRNA technology, since all adverse events were reported in the New York Times and other equally recognized scientific journals, I think we would hear about it, okay, and know about it. So that's the beauty. So let's take that technology, let's take that wonderful invention, let's take some of what good we can find in COVID and take it forward. And Frank, a friend of mine, died last night from cancer. So this is real. All right, let's talk. Yeah.
Oh, you want me to advance it for you?
I'll do it. May he rest in peace. Anyway, moving on. So this is our disclosure. And yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Thank you. That's about most people do that. I think you're supposed to like read it. Anyway, obviously because it's we are raising money, so I'm making investment propositions to everybody. And of course, there are many caveats associated with investments, even in early stage company. All right, so let me give you the big picture, Merlin. I can talk a little about the challenges I've been facing in raising money. So we have this lead asset, we call it MER 101. We're not that creative. Okay, it's a novel, it's a first-in-class cancer immunotherapy. So it's a natural protein. Every one of you has this protein. I can pull it out of your DNA, my DNA. It turns out when I take that protein, sequence for that protein, and I put it in a little thing called mRNA. My mRNA now, made in my lab, and then I inject it into a tumor cell. I tell the tumor cell to do something it doesn't want to do, which is attract the immune system. And that is the beauty of this thing. That's what it is. The actual drug name is called ubiquitin-specific protease number 6, and there will be a test later, so write that down. Okay. But that's the target. And so we've taken that the coding sequence for USP6, the same coding sequence every one of us has. I stuck in a little vector, a little piece of little thing that can make more of it, grew it up to a pretty big amount, cleaned it up, made it pharmacologically pure, and then using the same technology we used with COVID, instead of injecting into the muscle to get an immune response, I inject into the tumor to get an immune response to the tumor. Bye-bye tumor. That's the beauty of it, and that's what it does. So we have IP on it. We have very strong IP because people abandoned it for years. When it was discovered, actually in the 90s, a long time ago, 1992, people immediately tested it in every cancer cell line they could find, but they were testing it in the wrong cell lines. What is worse than no information? Wrong information. So everybody went down that pathway. All they found was, my God, USP6 causes cancer, because it does in a mouse cell line from the NIH. That is true. However, the biology in mice and the biology in humans simply is different. And it turns out that there's a disease called nodular fasciitis, and anybody says they've ever heard of it before listening to me is lying. I'll call you on it. This is a benign tumor called nodular fasciitis. And it was discovered at CHOP, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, that by Ian Henrich on my team, also a lumbar scientist, Margaret Chow, a scientist at CHOP, that there's a non-infectious vasculitis overexpresses USP6. You have this benign tumor, a tumor nobody dies from, it goes away all by itself, that's overexpressing this carcinogen. What? Well, it turns out that USP6 has a therapeutic effect. And so when you encode it and put it into this molecule, and Dr. Black obviously was impressive. When you put it into this, no, he hasn't called, he told me. So when you take it out and you put it into this, into a R expression system, you can take advantage of that anti-cancer effect. And that's what we're doing. It's that simple. It's really not any more complicated than that. So people were led down the wrong track because they all read the Google Scholar. Google, Google knows all, right? If Google says it in a Google blurb, it must be right? And if everybody else says it because they copied the other one, it must be like 10 times right. Okay, all right. So we have efficacy, that means the drug works in multiple mouse models with supporting human epidemiological survival data. Lots of words. What does that mean? Lots of syllables. What does that mean? It means that since it's a natural compound, I can take real people with real cancer and measure it. And if I do that, guess what? The people who have high levels of this thing live longer, survive, than those who have low. Well, hey, what if I artificially made everybody high, particularly those who have cancer, particularly in the tumor? I've got a drug. So that data, now what's really interesting is because it appears to have a pan-cancer effect, because it's a natural immunostimulator, the immune system is looking for any cancer, it's effective in many different types of cancer, and that leads to this massive market. This $2 billion in 5 years upon approval. Now the problem is that approval won't be for 8 to 9 years from now, and that's the challenge with fundraising. And it has a pediatric indication, a child indication. It turns out it's a rare pediatric indication. And the FDA, because Big Pharma would never develop a drug for a rare pediatric disease because it's too expensive and not enough return, but for small, tiny biotech, that's a big return. So the FDA grants an incentive, and it's called a priority review voucher. And all it means is that if your disease is designated as a rare pediatric disease, which we have applied for, upon approval, you get a letter. In your approval letter, there's a paragraph that says you are afforded a priority review voucher, which you can transfer and sell. Last 4 sold at $100 million each. For small biotech, that's real money, right? Okay, that's what the game is. So we're raising money. We've raised about $1 million to date, non-dilutive and some safe notes, equity notes. We're looking to raise about $23 million total to get to clinical inflection points where the company would be valued much higher. We might even have, we probably would have the pediatric indication, maybe the voucher to go with it. So good news. The problem is 6 million, 17, 23 million. This is, sounding like a lot of money, right? And it is, and that's the challenge. And the big challenge is that and I'm going to go a little bit into theory about investments, I guess. A traditional company valuation factors, you might look at sales. I heard about sales this morning, profit, EBITDA, market size, growth rate per year, other things we can all measure, right? Biotech, we don't have that. We don't sell. We don't sell. We make data. We sell science. We sell data. But we don't sell product. We're going to make one big sale at the end. It's called the whole company, right? So we look on IP, the supporting science, the stage of development, the stage of investment. These are the factors that drive up our valuation and allow us to issue debt against that future sale in the form of equity. Okay. And our valuation, what is Merlin worth today, is very much driven by the IP position and how close we are to FDA approval. So our IP position is strong because everybody else went down the wrong path. Nobody touched this intellectual property about USP6, our target, having anything to do with cancer. So we were able to open up and claim essentially the intellectual property real estate. Exits for private biotechs tend to be an acquisition. You get bought by a large pharma, an IPO or a SPAC, or you sell shares in a future round. But here's the challenge: is the valuation of the company here, measured in millions, is very much a hockey stick, because the closer it gets to the FDA approval, the more value the company is. And of course, we're way back here, and this is in the noise level. And there's a lot of risk with biotech too. I'll be perfectly frank. There's a tremendous amount of risk, but there's also a tremendous amount of reward. That's the venture model. It's almost perfect for it. Here we are. This is just a graphical, tabular of this data. So between discovery, we've discovered the drug. We're in a preclinical phase right now. Median valuation of a company like us in a preclinical phase is about 55 million. Depends on who you talk to. Some of the valuations are lower right now. They were much higher post-COVID, goes up and down because it's very arbitrary. But as you can see, the valuation really takes off as you go into phase 1, phase 2, and as you get close to FDA approval. The thing is, for a rare pediatric indication, because the alternative treatment for this disease is nothing, the bar to get approved is very, very low, very low. And that's important. You get approval in a rare indication quickly, and that's kind of our strategy, obviously. Okay, biotech valuations go up close to approval. Here's another way of looking at this is investment stage with Series A, B, C, and so on, all the IPO, and we're of course down here in this in the noise level, really, on this graph, but that's just what it is. Okay, so the thing is, as I've talked about earlier, I just mentioned we can get to an approval probably very quickly and at a relatively small price. We're just looking at pediatric indication alone. This is the kind of money I have to raise to get us to demonstrate to FDA our therapy is safe in humans, about 5 million, and then another 5 million or so can get us to a pediatric inflection point, which may be sufficient to get an approval or this conditional approval for children with these rare diseases. That's the reality of the world I'm living in. And so I've raised $1 million today. I probably talked to somewhere between about 50 VCs I think I've pitched to now. We have, we had some progress with a few of them, a few being about 6 or 7 of them. I haven't made the raise yet I need. And we're basically starving until we do. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So we want to get to your questions.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's
so
10
that's really the preamble. That's the preamble. Okay, I mean that's really the story because the rest of I can go into a very technical presentation of the pitch for Merlin. But what I really want to do is get to the challenge of raising that money because that's what I'm up against. And that's my question for you guys. Really, is how do I get this style of money? Raising 10 million, and it doesn't have to come all at once. To get this drug, into the lane, you get it moving down the pathway. Because once you start generating data, people will show up. Once you get the first investment, people will show up. I have a letter of intent from a company called Kids Being Cancer, 501c3 in Florida, for $2 million. I just show that letter. I don't even show it. I just tell people I have it. I got an investor calling me. Hey, I heard that you might have, It's amazing how important that first little drop in the bucket is. 2 million is not really a drop. I could have 3 big drop, but I haven't got it yet. So until I have it, I go. But that's my challenge. My first question to this group is not so much about the intricacies of the FDA approval process. I can bore you to death on that if you want. But it's more about the intricacies of getting that raise. That's where I am. So I can stop there.
So did you have a slide of questions or?
No, I'm going to just present it verbally.
Okay.
We'll write it down.
So, almost consistent with my feedback to the last group, and I know this is terrible to kind of put a monetary value on the suffering of people.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But to an investor community, what is I actually have 2 comments. Number one, what does this opportunity really mean? What does this really look like? Let's say you do get approval, right? In this first patient population, pediatric population, what could that turn into in terms of revenue, right? Is it $1 million business? Is it $1 billion business? And then are there spin-offs? And once that's, where could that go? The other thing that I would just say too, from a storytelling standpoint, I think everyone in this country can speak MNRA, but I don't think they really understand it. Right. And if there was a graphic or two that could simply depict how this is a novel approach to killing cancer versus other chemotherapeutic agents, that may help people understand why your approach is novel and different and give them a reason to believe with the financial part saying, look, everything's a risk, but the upside here in this marketplace is X number of $1 billion.
So I second that. I was gonna say the same thing, but do you have a relationship with CHOP? I used to be at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So St. Jude would likely, I won't speak for them, likely want to partner with you on this because of the pediatric indication on cancer. St. Jude is all over cancer, as you know. So that's my first thought is, are the venture capitalists the ones you really want to go over at this stage versus build these significant relationships with children's hospitals?
Right.
I understand how the pediatric is your ticket to ride, so to speak, for the riders.
Yeah.
And so path of least resistance would be something like that. And St. Jude does a lot of collaborative work, not just at St. Jude, but all around the world. A technical curiosity I have is, for tumor injection, does it have to be an encapsulated tumor, or do they respond better? I'm just curious.
So, to answer the first part of your question, so to answer your second question first, so no, because what happens is we're gonna force the human cancer to make this protein.
Okay, so it circulates and that's.
As long as it makes enough of it, as long as only 10% of the tumor makes it, we're good, because it kicks off, it's like which is all the toggle switches
Okay,
on.
so that's a loose lead. So back to the money, chasing the money aspect of things, what you were gonna say about St. Jude, or.
Yeah, so St. Jude, yeah, so of course we're talking CHOP. CHOP actually has a program where they'll provide 10% of the initial raise as a bonus to us. So we're bonus is part of the raise. We have to apply for it. So CHOP will come in. If we have to, but what I found is that everybody is looking for the first investment. It's the first one. Do you have a lead? That's no. Do you have a lead? Do you have a lead? Do you have a lead? Okay, and then I come back and say, I have this letter of intent from kids getting cancer for $2 million. That definitely focuses their mind. But a letter of intent is not a check.
So St. Jude has literally an unlimited amount of money. It's just incredible how much money they have.
We should talk.
Okay,
Hi, I'm Eric from Casus Marketing.
Hey, Eric.
Very, very interesting breakthrough. I understand it's at the exploratory and formulation stage.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the big pharma companies, the blue chip companies would really get into these. And a lot of them just invest just to be part of the research process, just to be a board member or a stake in your company, because they want to see how these things go. And I think you could get the $10 million. I know in other categories, like I've done in diabetes, I've seen those type of things happen. So that would just be a suggestion. I don't know if you've talked with any of those.
I've talked to 10 of them.
Okay.
Everyone pretty much gives me the same, and I work for many of them, and I've been at high levels in many of them, so they know me. They say, we need to see your initial phase 1 data.
Clinicals.
Yeah, they want me to de-risk it. They want me and other investors to de-risk it. Once I get into clinic, and all I'm really getting into clinic, the first study I'm just going to show that it doesn't hurt anybody. It's a safety study. That's what they want to see, because if they see that, then they can manipulate, or they might get involved and to try to perk up its efficacy, its effectiveness. But that's what so the big pharma is. Oh yeah, they're interested, but they all come to the same plane. They say, "Come call me when you have that phase 1 data."
The clinicals are expensive.
That's where the money is. And this is cheap clinical. 10 million is cheap.
I have questions in terms of like,
Sure.
I would break down this 9 mil, right? And go what, where, when, why?
We have a whole Excel spreadsheet.
Okay, so
Yeah.
like, I'm wondering which VCs have you hit, which have you not? Like what?
We've hit quite a few.
Yeah, what specific question do you have in terms of strategy?
Yeah, that's the question is the VCs we talk to pretty much come back to the same story. Is every one of them looks at it as a high risk early oncology drug, which means they see risk. And the risk is real. I mean, come on, it really is real. It's about 5% success rate. Okay, to get all the way to the end. But I don't have to get it all the way to the end to get out. I just have to get it part way, right? So that risk becomes smaller. And all the way in is 9 years from now.
Angels have already been.
Oh, angels have showed up. But angels have, they tend to beat you up in valuation. They tend to, the money is small. Angel money will keep you alive, but it won't get you to the company. Sir.
Have you tried with federal grant? I saw you got state NSF, for example.
Yeah, no, we definitely apply for grants. We've had, medium success rate. We did score one grant from the DoD, and we have other grants and collaborations that we apply for. It's an iterative process, getting grants. You usually don't get it the first time.
Sure.
Yeah. So we apply for grants every chance we get, and we are right now applying for grants. We have several grants in the water, so we're trying that, of course.
With your grant for the DoD, does that mean you went through, you're registered with the government as a supplier or?
Well, yeah, we have SAM.gov reg, yeah, but that's not
Yeah.
that's nothing
Right, okay.
special. Yeah, that just means we have a SAM.gov reg. Yeah, our challenge really is, so my question really to this is this, we have to, it's the initial rate. Everybody, the angels are okay, angels they like, the angels will keep me alive, but they're not gonna get me down the road.
Yeah, so then I have a question for everybody. What questions has he not asked us? What should he be asking us that he's not? Anybody?
I just have a question, so are you doing, I know the ARPA H grant has, they're doing it specifically for mRNA, it seems like that's one you're applied to cycle-wise?
We banged on that door.
Yeah.
They're looking for bigger.
Yeah, they're looking for rocket ships.
Yeah, exactly. Looking for rocket ships. I have a really cool missile. They want a rocket ship.
Yeah.
Now my missile could become a very big rocket ship. But this is the other problem is some of the investors are, come back to us when you're asking for 30 million. It costs me the same amount of money to give you 3 million as it does to give you 30, all the diligence I have to do. So I'm really only interested at the 30 level. And I just can't come up with 30 million. I just would be, I can't do it.
Yeah.
It's too small.
I just had a wild thought. You're focusing on pediatric, but stage 4, I mean, where tumors are all over the place. If this shrinks tumors, you potentially give a life-saving,
Yes.
a lifesaver to people who are just about to die. And the question is whether that's a more interesting argument.
But the way that works is to develop the drug, I have to first test it in adults with end-stage disease.
Mm-hmm.
Almost by my request, but FDA agreed, of course. I asked them the question, but because I don't want to go to the pediatric population without testing it first in the adult population. But we'll do that. It's a safety run, and it's what it is. And we will do that specifically in that population. Actually in Australia, where they give you a 45% rebate. They give you
Because
money.
if you can show stage 4 turnaround, that's huge.
Yeah, if we can even just slow it down.
Yeah.
Because we have to get the dose right and things like that. But that we will do. And those conversations already opened up. I just have to get the money to start that. I have to have that. And it's funny, there's VCs, not VCs, there's family offices in Australia who would advance you that 45% today with a small interest rate, knowing that you're going to get it from the government at the end. So if I'm going to spend $3 million in a trial, they'll give me 1.5 million right now, so I don't have to raise it. It's amazing.
I'm interested in your pitch to the investors, whether it's an angel investor or someone larger, just because your overall theme is you're helping kids beat cancer.
Mhm.
So, is that like your main, you gave us this disclaimer first. I want to know like the big bang, like, hey, this is going to grab you, and then this is how we do it.
Yeah.
And then the power of yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to help kids beat cancer?
Right.
And so, how do you say no to do you want to help kids beat cancer? Do you want to help, stage 4?
So the answer I get to that when I do, so my pitch is this this fast run ramp in pediatrics, okay, because I can get into the clinic quickly. Dana-Farber wants to run the study, they're going to pay for some of the study, because they want the drug, because they're watching kids die, they're like, we don't want to do that anymore. So they want the drug, okay, and they're on, okay, but I've got to get the drug to them first, okay? That's a $6 million question.
Trust too, it's a lot, do they trust you in this?
Yeah, I think they've only, we've built up a relationship over years, but the payoff, once you get onto the highway, then it's a 10-lane highway in the adult indications, which is this $2 billion market, but that's 9 years from now. So
How many people are in your space doing this?
we own, well, mRNA immunotherapeutics a lot, but we own this payload entirely, completely, because everybody ran away from it for years.
I think I need to know total accessible market. So for example, child sarcoma seems like how many people are there?
Yeah, the pediatric is small. I mean, so if we get a pediatric indication, it's for the voucher. It's for the $100 million voucher. That's the reason you do it financially, because the market itself is about 3,000 cases a year.
Right, I think that's the issue that we're running up against here, right? This $10 million you could probably use for another condition that would get more bang for your buck.
Right, but the thing is, once we get human clinical efficacy and safety data, then it's much easier to get other.
Yeah, so maybe that's your story, that you show the pros and cons.
Yeah.
And be like, we understand, VC, you can do this and get 10-time return. But if you did this, you might get 20-time return.
Right.
Just as an example, but I think it seems like that, and a lot of the hurdles, I think you can do that probably in one slide. Just, there's specifics like human factors and things that's not on here.
Yeah, I have a pitch deck. I'm not showing mine.
Right.
It's like we don't have time.
Yeah, so just, I don't know, shortening or thinking of a different way to show it. I'm concerned about that disease state.
I mean, so I work at the moment at Santa Fe in the mRNA Center of Excellence. I know some of your former colleagues.
No names.
Right. It seems like if the problem is risk, right, then the story needs to be either about how the risk is lower or the return is higher, right? Which is basically what people have been saying on the return is higher side of things. On the risk is lower side, right? What's the big thing that's holding back mRNA technology? It's the adverse events, it's the reactogenicity, it's the problems that people see, which is much less of a problem in oncology.
Yeah, it's a non-issue.
Right. There's the fact that you've got no alternative treatment, at least within the child indication that you're leading with. You could throw up Sankey diagrams about lines of treatment and how these things progress and how this could fit into that. But it feels like you could talk more on the why this is lower risk than some other possibilities or than what sort of people react to when they think of the COVID vaccine, why we're having so much trouble getting vaccine technology off the ground with the first generation, because that only worked in a pandemic situation, right? Nobody would accept those side effects outside of that. So it's the same thing here in oncology. If you lead more with that as sort of a, kind of a risk reduction mentality, like this isn't as big a risk as it looks like from that side of things, that might help.
Right. Essentially echoing what the big pharma is telling me is take the risk out when we're in.
Right. But from an investor standpoint, right, taking out the big pharma companies, it may resonate as less risky if you address the ways that this is not as big a problem in this oncology indication, and why it's a better possibility than another place.
I'd like to pick up on that and wondering whether vaccine, there's a whole anti-vax movement that everyone knows about. If this is I'm assuming it could be administered by IV or injection.
It's an intratumoral injection, direct injection.
So it's not, yes, it's a vaccination, but it's a therapy.
It's a therapy. It is essentially a form of a vaccine, but it's not a vaccine.
So I'm just wondering whether it's best to take the word vaccine.
Yeah, we don't use the word vaccine. It's not. It's an mRNA-based cancer immunotherapeutic. Is what it is. It's really it actually a vaccine induces an immune response to the proteins of interest. Now, technically speaking, one aspect of USP6 is to do that. It has many other components to it, right? But it's not really a vaccine. That is inappropriate.
Is there any value? I don't know the world of fundraising in the med space, but is there value in getting parents involved of the kids?
Yeah, to beat up on the investors.
No, not even that, to invest themselves, like Lorenzo Oil. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but like Lorenzo Oil, the machine, like you're not asking for billions of dollars. There's parents on my Facebook feed who are dealing with this issue, who have incredible wealth behind them, who may, I don't think they're gonna, stick out their kid's arm right now, but they want to be part of this solution, even if their kid has passed on.
So where we have had some traction, not directly with parents, but we've had traction is this organization called Kids Getting Cancer in Florida, who is basically full of parents who have suffered. Okay? And some of these parents are very wealthy.
That's my point,
Yeah.
right? Lorenzo Oil, this was a movie years ago.
And they're putting money into a fund that KBC is creating, and that's where we get our $2 million
Okay.
earmark for.
Right.
But that fund is being created right now, but that's exactly what we're doing on a kind of not really institution, but through this institution. as opposed to direct appeal,
Right.
which I could do.
But what she said, you can go beyond that institution and get some work tenants who are more, let's say, approachable. Right? Maybe you need to work with the marketing or whatever company who can help you. Attract these people to
On the
them.
clinical side of things, there's some regulatory issues.
Yeah, I know, but you can't sell, like, it's a matter of,
I can't sell.
you can't sell, you want them to be kind of friends of the process and
Yeah.
eventually the foundations and lots of foundation.
Yeah, one thing, I'm just wondering, one thing I could do is we haven't crowdsourced funded. We haven't done that. In fact, the investors ask me about it, say, have you done that? And they don't, good, okay, so they don't want that. But I'm wondering if kids getting cancer could do more crowdsourced funding. They could do it with the money from their fund and then the money comes to us.
And there's also Coaches Against Cancer, all the NCAA basketball coaches have been involved with them. There's a whole bunch of those types of organizations that are filled and started by parents who have, the family has suffered through this issue, positive outcome or negative. And they have lots of, Coaches Against Cancer has lots of money.
I mean, the story, when you go into the pediatric side, it's very emotive. It's really bad news. There are people who suffer from this, okay? And it's real. It's as real as it gets. And on the adult side, equally. A friend of mine, died last night, so. Cancer.
Right.
So, yeah, there you are.
Any other comments?
Did you do the flip?
Yes, we did the flip. I don't know where you were.
Part of the boards,
I
would it-
just kidding.
Or what, sorry?
the National Organization of Rare Diseases, would this condition be considered a rare disease?
So rare disease, I think the number is 1 or 200,000 incident cases in the United States a year. I mean, the pediatric sarcoma is at 3,000 incident cases, obviously meets that standard. You have to get the FDA to formally say that, though. So we engage the law firm to do that. They're doing that. So we'll have a letter sooner or later that says, yes, this would qualify for a rare pediatric disease designation, therefore would be afforded the voucher upon approval. And the good news, as I talked about earlier, is you get these approvals at the early stages.
Yes, really fast.
Very early stages. They call it the 3-minute mile.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you, team. I wanted just to present that part of it. Those, and the questions were really, thank you for bringing that up. That was nice. What questions am I not asking?
Yeah.
So that's really where I am.
Marty's idea, it's not mine.
Yeah, I have a.
No, I'm responsible for the format.
That's okay. I have a whole pitch deck we're gonna have show with you because it's a time thing. But my questions were more really this challenge I'm having right now in getting this company out of the starting gate. Really where I am. Cool. Thank you.
All set?
Thank you, Doctor. Very kind.
So let me stop the stream here. Thank you so much. So folks, he's like an old timer in this place because he works here, so he knows all the machines. So thank you very much for coming. We're gonna obviously have some networking time. I want no